Hello everyone. By using this video, let us try to understand FIN5823 week 3 case study. FIN5823 is mostly related to the financial modeling, and while preparing financial models, it is very important to understand certain terms. Here, very few important terms such as growth per month, revenues, expenses, operating cash flow, and some other details were asked for briefing about those terms and explaining interpretation of results in the Excel sheet, the data that is given based on the data that is given in the Excel sheet. Okay, so first you need to understand what are these terms and you are supposed to write about them. Then you will write interpretation of each term based on the data that is given in the financial Excel sheet. It is a very simple task. For these terms, you can get data anywhere from the Google. You just need not to give any reference. Just briefly try to understand the what does that those terms mean and briefly write a 50 to 100 word content related to those terms and then start writing interpretation. Okay, I recommend you to write at least 100 words. That would be better because we have to show certain content in the document. So it is better if you can write 100 words of complete, like including what is the meaning of the term and your interpretation. The expected word count for this task is a maximum of 500 words. 1.5 page is expected to be written. Okay, so let us open the document. If you check this, these are the terms that are asked for. Actually, these are the terms that were asked to explain in the document. There are seven terms in total here. Among these seven, you can write about any five. Okay, what is percentage growth per month? When compared to last month, the growth that is experienced by the organization, the restaurant about which we are reading, neighborhood food restaurant. Okay, so what is the percentage growth it experienced? Revenue, the total sales value that is generated by the organization during the selected period. Expenses, the total expenses that are incurred for the organization to generate the revenue that is mentioned above. We call that expenses. Operating cash flow is the difference between inflow of cash and outflow of cash. Revenues are usually considered as inflow of cash and expenses are considered outflow of cash. So when outflow of cash is subtracted from inflow of cash, we get operating cash flow. So if this should be positive, when this value is positive, the organization will be in profits. Customers per month. This is all about number of people that are visiting food restaurant each month, approximately. Then food percentage of total revenue. When we compare total costs, food costs, exclusively food costs, when we compare our food cost with total revenue that is generated by the organization, what amount of food cost incurred to generate that particular revenue, we call it as food cost to total revenue ratio. Then labor cost to total revenue. Similarly, so to generate that revenue, what is the labor that is involved in the work? We call it labor as percentage of total revenue. We call food cost contribution to get revenue, labor contribution to generate the revenue. We can speak in terms of percentage, we can speak in terms of value, average value, and in many ways we can speak about. So these all terms are very important to decide about success of the project that is selected. Let us start reviewing each term and interpreting, understanding what does each term means. The first term is percentage growth. It is observed that the percentage growth per month for the organization is 5%. Approximately, at each month, organization is experiencing a minimum of 5% growth. So this percentage is positive. as organization is experiencing a positive growth, we say that it is a good business. Then total number of next one is revenue. The revenue that is generated by the organization is positive. Every month, the organization was able to generate 60,000 plus dollars. So this is also a good term, and it was observed that when we compare these two things, na, we can say that at every month the organization is experiencing certain growth. And we already discussed about that growth. The growth is 5%. Next, it is all about total expenses. It was also noticed that as the growth of the organization is increasing, the cost associated with organization is experiencing mixed changes. Total expenses were 57,000 during the month of January. Overall, by the month of December, the total expenses value got reduced to 54,000. So when total costs are getting reduced, we can say that the organization progress is very good. One more term here, owner income. You can see that every month consistently the owner is gaining 8,000 as income from the operations. So this is also very good value over a period of time. For 12 months, the owner was able to generate $96,000 as his or her income. Now let us see the operating cash flow data. We can see that in the January month, operating cash flow was 5,000 and it was increased to 8,137 by December. This also explains that operating cash flow has undergone good tremendous growth, and we can see that within a year the organization was able to generate more than 50% of growth. Okay, compared to January month, in the December month the value of total growth was 8,137. This trend clearly shows, though there are some ups and downs, overall the trend is positive. So it clearly explains that the operating cash flow of the company is increasing, so it is a good for organization. Next, we can see that food as cost and labor as cost are two different values, and they both are 30% here. Now let us see how percentage growth per month influences the sheet. Okay, now when the value of percentage growth is 5%, when we make it 1% more than that, we can see that the total revenue that is generated drastically increased to 207,000 for total year. It's the value is very high. The total value is 207.77 207,775 thousands. Just cross check with the previous value. It is 87,820. By simply increasing 1% growth rate, if organization was capable of generating 1% growth rate, we can see a huge change in total operating cash flow, revenue, and expenses. So this is very good value, and we can simply conclude here that when we increase expected percentage growth per month, the value associated with total profits that organization can generate will be high. So if we decrease the value, what happens? When we decrease, when the value is 4%, then also, oh my God, now it is 87,000. Oh, sorry, this is 0.05%, 0.04%. Then the value now slightly decreased. So percentage growth per month value always has influence on revenues, expenses, and total costs. Now let us check how these two patterns will change. Let us keep all other values constant 0.05. and change food cost as percentage. Now let me make it 25%. So now we can see that again the value associated with when food cost as total revenue reduced, the total value generated by the organization is reduced. So though it is a cost, we can see that the pattern based on the pattern, we can explain that when the food cost is reduced, then the total expenses were decreased to next level, and the total profit that could be generated by the organization is increased. Now let us increase the total cost to 35% and see what happens. When food cost as percentage of total revenue is increased, then the cost associated with the operations increased and total profit that organization can make is reduced. So this food cost as percentage of total revenue has directly proportional is directly proportional to the profit operating expense total operating expense that can be generated by the organization. When it is increased, the total operating cash flow decreases. When it is decreased, total operating cash flow increases. Same kind of thing also happens with the labor cost as total percentage of revenue. When it is 35, we are increasing it, profit reduces, and when we are decreasing, the profit increases. So these two terms, food cost as a percentage of total revenue and labor cost as percentage of total revenue, these two values are inversely proportional. Actually, earlier I said directly proportional. These two are indirectly proportional. When they increase, the total operating cash flow will be decreased. When we decrease these two terms, operating expenses increase and operating sorry when we decrease these two terms, operating expenses decreases and operating cash flow increases. When we increase these two terms, operating cost will increase, total expenses will increase, and the operating cash flow will reduce. So when these values are reduced, this will increase, and when these two values are increased, this will decrease. So this is how we can explain patterns. These two do not have any impact on revenue. Percentage growth is having an impact on revenue, and these two values, maybe if we change it to 17, it has impact on these revenues. Number of customers visiting the store and total customers per day and days per month. These three values always have impact on revenue, expenses, and operating cash flows. Whereas these two values, they only have impact on expenses and operating cash flow. You just try to change these values, you will understand what is happening with the data. This is what we call financial model, and based on that we can estimate how our organization can perform in future. That is all from my side. Just for example, you have a restaurant, and if you want to cross check the expected growth rate is 5%, and you want to cross check how many average check for every time when customer visits, how much he pays, and based on that what kind of amount you will be making. You want to estimate what amount you will make because of these activities. You can simply change these values accordingly, and you will get a total value that can be generated per year and per each month. Very simple. So this kind of financial models always helpful for the business managers to make decisions. That's it from my side, team. All the best. Please explain the terms. All these terms should be explained. These are inputs, and these are the terms that experience changes. Okay, you can speak about these all values, and you can speak about revenue. You can speak about expenses. You can speak about operating expenses, and owner's expenses. So these are very important terms in this pattern. And when one value changes, how all other values getting influenced, you can discuss. Okay, you have all the scope, but I say your limitation is 500 words max. Okay, all the best. Thank you.